the Americans have landed in strength. They have the high ground, and they have the heavy guns. He realizes that the Americans are making one terrible gamble with a toss of the dice, one massive invasion of Queenston. He orders the complete evacuation of all British and Canadian resources on the peninsula. He hands the order to Captain Alexander Hamilton, who selects his best riders, who must get through, to bring reinforcements. Off they fly to the Four Corners. And now, Brock assesses the situation once again. He feels that time is of the essence. He does not know when or if the Americans can unspike the guns. And he orders and leads a charge of redcoats and militia up the wooded face of the escarpment. From behind a tree, a Kentucky rifleman takes his long squirrel gun, aims, fires, and puts a ball through Brock's breast. He falls face down and dies almost instantly. The redcoats and the militia fall back in confusion and disarray. We are now facing what could be a staggering and humiliating defeat. Meanwhile, Captain Alexander Hamilton and his dragoons have made themselves useful. They've used their horsepower to ride back to Fort George, and they drag out two small 6-pounder brass cannons, grasshoppers they're called. And there, under what Pierre Burton says, extreme danger, they set up a makeshift battery right in the very gardens of Captain Alexander Hamilton's parents' residence, overlooking the Niagara River right on the village of Queenston. In the hands of the experienced Royal Artillery gunners, these two cannon start blowing apart any bateau that dares approach the Canadian shore. For the moment, and as long as the battery can hold, the invasion has been stopped in its tracks. Soon, the gorge can be heard to be filled with the dying screams of drowning men. The Niagara Light Dragoons have done good work. Reinforcements are starting to arrive. First to come is General Sheaffe from Fort Erie. He's surprised to hear of Brock's death, that he now must lead the defense of Canada. Slow, cautious, and deliberate, there'll be no fanatical charge up the hill. He'll play for time, desperately hoping that the guns remain unspiked, desperately hoping that the two-cannon battery stays operational. First to arrive is Chief John Norton, half Cherokee, half Scots. He brings in 240 war-painted Mohawks. Sheaffe pushes them along the wooded face of the escarpment towards the river. There, using blood-curdling war whoops and yelps and excellent backwoods skills, they slip from log to log, tree to tree, pushing back the American snipers up into the American camp. Next to arrive is Captain Robert Runchin with his 39-man company of, quote, Negroes, unquote, 39 Afro-Americans who previously were enslaved. Now, today, they will fight for their very freedom at the front of the vaunted Thin Red Line. Later that afternoon, when 170 redcoats march in on the double from Fort Erie, Sheaffe figures that he has now the manpower to dislodge the trapped Americans. He goes inland a mile or two, goes up the wooded escarpment by an old hunter's trail, unnoticed and unseen by the Americans. And he spreads his men out, 700 strong, in a wide arc. Now it's time to pull it loose. And he orders the advance. It's the old-fashioned way. No artillery support, no cavalry support, just men. Men and muskets, perhaps walking into the mouths of their very own cannon. Rat-tat-tat. Rat-tat-tat beats out the drum. As they approach the American defenses, American muskets and rifles ring out up and down the line, Troopers and militiamen are flung up, left writhing in pain or to die face down in the freshly plowed mud of the old loyalist Elijah Phelps Field. But on the line goes, just like Brock showed them, forming and reforming. It's become an organic, living thing, deadly ominous in its silence and its purpose. Blessedly, 100 yards from the American camp, Shafe gives the order to halt. He gives the order for the men to present arms, aim, fire. Blinding flash, tremendous crash, and the battlefield is instantly covered in gun smoke. Shafe gives the order to walk on. Reloading at the slow walk. 700 men step out from a bank of gun smoke and now stand 70 yards in front of the American forces. 70 yards, the very killing range of the Brown Bess musket. Individual targets can be made out. He gives the order, level arms, aim, fire. Second round of pure hellfire rips through the American ranks. Then comes the order to fix bayonets, the affair to be settled by a fanatical bayonet charge, which, fortunately, is not necessary. For there, on the afternoon breeze, above the American camp, floats a white flag of surrender. 2 rounds of the Brown Bess had done the trick. No need for a third. The Battle of Queenston Heights started some 12 hours earlier. Is over. Now the victory at Queenston was more symbolic than it was strategic. It was merely the opening round in what would be 2 years of American invasion. It was a war in which no quarter would be asked, none would be given. Entire villages were burnt and razed to the ground. No matter how many times the British and Canadian line would bend, it would never really break. For the lessons of Queenston had been clear. Faith in their leadership, faith in themselves, what's more, faith in their weapon. This war could not just be won, or fought, this war could be won. Tonight, I'd like to take this opportunity to dedicate this weapon to Captain Alexander Hamilton and his few, the Niagara Light Dragoons, who on that day distinguished themselves with so much glory and distinction. In particular, I would draw your attention to saddle number 25, numerically, second from the last. His name, Trooper William Wintermoon. Already a veteran of the capture of Detroit, already a veteran of the skirmish at Fort Erie, already a veteran of the raid on Fort Schlosser. On this day, October the 13th, 1812, he will participate in and contribute to the greatest victory ever achieved in defense of Canadian soil. He was my great-great-great-grandfather, and he had not yet celebrated his 18th birthday. Huzzah! Huzzah! And so if you go to museums, there's one in Ottawa where old weapons are stored with their names writ beneath. You'll find her there, upstanding, her back to the wall, stiff as a ramrod, the flint in her teeth. And if ever we Canadians had reason to bless any arm, save our mothers, why, that arm is Brown Bess.